Good evening, and welcome to Soluble, America's Political Central. Now, our first broadcast out of the gate last night for the new year, 2023, we discussed what we thought were hangups with would-be Democratic voters that are on the fence, maybe thinking about switching parties, um, Democratic voters who may be disgruntled by what we here at Soluble think are some of the main sticking points with possibly main sticking points against the 90 something percentile of Democratic votes, which make up pretty much primarily African American voters that vote in the low 90 something percentile for Democrats. Now, as I noted last night, we lost 6% of that vote from 2020 to 2022. We lost 6% of the vote. 6%. So we want to highlight, emphasize, point out to you that if you have a 90 something percentile voting record with any one particular party, you should be getting everything you want out of that party. So for Negroes in America who are voting Democrat and who feel disgruntled, there's a course of action to take. There is a course of action to take. But back to the low 90 something percentile. How is it? And this is a question primarily for, Democratic voters, Negroes in particular. How is it that you're voting in the low 90 something percentile and you wind up under the knee of a crooked cop being killed? How is it that you vote in the 90 something percentile and you wind up having Karens all over the country calling the police on you for little to no reason? How is it that when you're voting in the 90 something percentile that you can be subject to such blatant, rampant, discrimination and or racism in the country? Could it be possible that even though Negroes in America vote in the low 90 percentile for the Democratic Party, could it be possible that even though that is an accurate statistic, could it be that when these elections come around, we don't have the turnout? That's a great possibility. That even though you vote in the low 90 something percentile, you're still on the losing end when you don't show up on election day. And, that's where we're going to put our target at. That's where we're going to put the bullseye at to try to keep the voter turnout high and get it even higher so as to never, ever, as I've said before, time and time again, enter into anything that resembles Trumpism ever again. Because we see what a dark time that it was for the country. We saw the dangers. We saw the guardrails that have been put in place being threatened to be torn down, knocked down. And so thus Soluble came forward to make the case that when you're voting in large numbers, as is reflected by party registration, then you should be getting, pretty much everything you want. So we're here to let, people of color, Democratic voters, people of color know that it's more than just rocking the vote and going away. That's what Democrats, to tell the truth and shame the devil, that's what Democrats have been counting on. For you to place a vote, come in on election day, or around the time of the election cycle, place a vote, and then go away. Not fight for anything. Not vote and, still take a look-see approach to make sure that the things that you voted for are being fought for, are being debated vigorously on Capitol Hill on behalf of Democratic voters. And no, it shouldn't be that way. No, it shouldn't be. It's in a perfect world, you would elect these officials and they would go up to Capitol Hill and immediately get to work on the things that they campaigned on. And for the most part, they do. But you can easily get caught up in, these special interest groups, the lobbyists, um, you know, trying to worry about the majority, trying to sway the majority. And, the things that you voted for, or that you hope you voted in, could get lost in the shuffle. So, that's why our position here at Salisbury is that you have to stay active. You have to stay in it. We have to become a powerful voting force of people in order to ensure that we continue to make forward progress. If we're tired of 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, then this is the way to go. This is the way to go. You have to get informed. You have to educate yourself as to how the process works. I mean, and we can throw out all these old negatives of the past that, these people are just going to do what they want to anyway. Or why should I bother to vote because my vote doesn't count? We have to throw all that out now because Obama was in. We voted him in. Trump is out. We voted him out. After 8 years, no, 4. And we saw what happened January the 6th of 2021. There was an attempt to make it where your vote didn't count. But the system held. The checks and balances that are in place, they held. So definitely, the MAGA rats tried to overturn a free and fair election. But they failed because of the system that you participated in and won a majority couldn't be denied, wouldn't be denied. So for that reason alone is evidence enough to let people who are still on the fence, doubting Thomases, the glass is always half empty type people. This should help you to see, or let you see that argument now, or those excuses now, they're dead and gone. They're null and void. They're obsolete. They no longer carry any weight. Excuse me. So now you have little to no excuse to not participate. But those of us in America, Negroes who are active voters, who are constant voters, we're going to have to separate ourselves. And we're going to have to call them out. If we are 90 something percentile voting Democrat, but we're only turning up 40 something percent of the time, that's half. That's half. So we're going to have to call it out. And we're going to have to call a spade when it comes to Negroes in America who vote Democrat, but don't turn out, or show up every time that there's an election. And it's important that you do. It's the responsible thing to do in order to get to this promised land of equal justice, a true sense of freedom. no discrimination, little to no racism. In order to get there, you're going to have to participate. You're going to have to take responsibility for your own lives, for your own well being, for your own neighborhoods, like it or not. Because nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody is going to be a shoulder to cry on when you haven't voted. Now, when you participate in the process and the wheels of justice don't turn in the right way, then you have a voice. You have a listening shoulder. But right now we're not there. At this day and time, we're not there. We're at a time and place now where we go out, we rock the vote. We show up. We stand in line. We deal with whatever new voting laws that may have come about through the Republican Party to try to make it harder for us to vote. But we vote. We vote. This is the finish line that we've been looking for. Negroes in America. This is the finish line that we've been looking for. To be an end all, if you will. Whereas, in America in the past, it's been a lack of equality. This is the finish line to equality in America for Negroes. The vote. The vote. So our position here at Soluble is that we call them out. We call out Negroes who are registered as Democrats or are not registered at all, that don't even play a part in the political process. We have to call them out now. So if you're out there listening and you know someone, or you know somebody that knows somebody, we have to call them out each and every time now. If we participate in the process, if we participate in this democracy, every time that we're in an election year, we will control our own fate. We will control our own fate. And, I broke it down last night, and I'm going to break it down once again. Two of the main sticking points for Negroes in America towards the Democratic Party is the LGBTQ community and things like excuse me, I had a lapse in judgment there. I lost my chain of thought. The two things that are sticking points to us as Negro voters here in America is the Democratic Party protecting the LGBTQ community. That's one. The other sticking point, and it's a major sticking point, is Negroes in America have been led to believe or leaning to the conclusion that the Democratic Party is the party of entitlements in the name of welfare, food stamps, and these programs that are there to help and give you a hand up, but they're not long term in your destiny to excel, to achieve your American dream. They're not there for that. And so going forward, we want to, at Soluble here, we want to make it clear that the New Age Democratic Party that we're looking for is not a party that pushes entitlement programs. I mean, there are people who need it, but to let it continue to grow and not try to bring about an end to it would be wrong, would continue to be, to the detriment of families in America, Negro families in particular. And so, there it is. The party of entitlement, no. The party of entitlement, no. That's what we're not all about here at Soluble. We're going to debate it. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to do whatever it takes to bring, these programs to an end, diminish them, gradually phase them out because they do nothing for the family. I mean, I've stated it before. Imagine this. Here you have a family that's made up of a mother, several children by different fathers, and no father is around or present in the home. So this falls on the shoulders of Democrats and Republicans. To ever think something like this would work or that it would produce the desired results, to bring about positive family members, happy children, content children, children who are growing up in this program and having all of their basic needs met and the vast majority of their wants when their behavior calls for it. That's not what this program does. It keeps you in poverty. It keeps you always chasing, but never being able to achieve the American dream. Poverty breeds crime. This is another major breakdown in the family of people of color. So entitlements, going forward in the New Age Democratic Party, entitlements is just something that not only leaves a bad taste in the mouths of, a good number of African American voters who vote Democrat. We hear it soluble, we feel you. We feel, your frustration, your pain, your discontent with the entitlement programs in the form of welfare and food stamps. And it shouldn't be a partisan issue. We would expect both parties to work across the aisles to bring about a remedy, bring about a better way, better jobs, more jobs, and eventually phase out something that is as wickedly deceptional as what the welfare program is. Now, in conclusion, being the New Age Democratic Party going forward and pushing for an end to entitlement programs, where there's nothing in this program or in these entitlements except for basic living expenses, and there's nothing else after that. After you take care of your basic living expenses, that's it, and you're down until the next month rolls around. So in the meantime, in between time, in these next 20 to 29 days or whatever, until another check rolls around, you're in poverty. And poverty, most definitely, we know, brings crime. Now, in putting the end of these entitlement programs, we as Democratic voters, Negroes in particular, this is not a stigma that we should all feel as though we bear, even though we're stereotyped in that way. But this is not a stigma that working class Negroes, college educated Negroes in America, who are working hard to achieve the American dream, in most cases achieving it, and then some. This is not a stigma for us. This is not a scarlet letter for us as a whole, because lo and behold, rest assured and know that these families that participate in these entitlement programs and the children that are conceived in them are made in America. They're made in America. So it's not a stigma for us as Negroes on a whole. These children, these families are made in America. And, it's just like anything else that's made in America. When these children come forth, realize the extent of the poverty that they're in, and they start to venture towards crime, and they eventually become criminals, that's a product made in America through the welfare, through these entitlement programs. So instead of us feeling as if, it's a stigma for us, it's a black eye for us as Negroes on a whole, no. Being that it's made in America, we have to give it back to the federal government. And that's why we have to speak up. That's why we have to stand up. We have to give these children, these entitlement programs have produced. We have to give them these families, these children that are a constant negative in the Black community when it comes to crime, when it comes to poverty, when it comes to a lack of education. We have to give these families back to the American government and say, here is the product of people that were made in America. And just like, you know, everything else when it's made in America and there's a defect, there is something about it that demands a recall. We what do we say? We're going back to the drawing board. So that's where it's at with entitlement programs, the families that result from them in a situation where it's crime, illiteracy, truancy, where they're not even going to school, the ill manners, the disrespect. These families, these children, our position here at Soluble is, are made in America. And so instead of feeling as if, we should walk around with a scarlet letter as Negroes in a whole, we give them back to the federal government and say, here's what you made in America. Fix it. You fixed everything else. It's back to the drawing board. Because one thing we know about products that's made in America throughout the history, we take pride in those type of things. We take pride in those products, the type of people that we produce. And these people, these families that are produced in the entitlement programs, we have to demand that the federal government go back, look at it again, go back to the drawing board, and give us something different. Give us a different heart made in America. Give us a more educated mind made in America. But lo and behold, rest assured, trust and believe that it's no stigma, scarlet letter, or stereotyping to be done for African Americans on a whole when it comes to entitlement programs. Because we work, we earn, we build, we accomplish, we're ambitious. But we do have a problem. We do have a problem here with the type of family that comes from these entitlement programs. So, in closing, we're going to champion it. We're going to champion it. We're going to shove it down the throats of Democratic politicians because, as I said, it's made in America, and it definitely needs to be taken back to the drawing board because it's too much illiteracy, it's too much crime, and it causes definitely a breakdown in society, especially in neighborhoods that Negroes reside in all across America. All across America. These families and these children who are made in America as a result of these entitlement programs. So, as Negroes in America who are voting in order to not have to go back, in order to be able to build and go forward, in order to no longer be sick and tired of being sick and tired, you have to take responsibility now. You see, no one's going to do it for you. No group of people, no one man here on this planet is going to come forth and save you. But participating in this system, participating in this democracy, rocking the vote, getting involved, will bring about the change that you desire. Nothing else. You've protested. You've boycotted. And the racism and discrimination was still there. Now, if you're using, your head for something besides a hat rack, you should have been able to look at January the 6th, 2021, and say, well, if the MAGA racks are going to rebel at this level, and they're going to go to this extreme to change up the election, then my vote must carry a lot of power. We asking you, we here at Soluble asking you to take a long look at that. What kind of power and sway must your vote hold to make Republican voters, MAGAites in particular, act this way? And, you know, if you could see it clearly, if you could figure it out, then you will realize you should be able to realize just how much power that your vote has. And once you realize that, then you will know how to exercise that power to your advantage, whether it's in a group of voters, whether it's in a block of voters, whether it's in a racial demographic of voters. You will be able to learn how to exercise that power always in this democracy to your advantage. And, you know, the truth be told, if you can't exercise it in that way and let this democracy work for you, then it's no longer a democracy. But before we can say that, before we can take that position, we have to rock the vote. We have to get out and vote always in the election cycle. I think the next major election cycle will be in 2 years, God willing, we live to see it. The year 2024. The president will be up for another 4 years. So you have plenty of time. And in the meantime, you know, we would like for you to continue to tune in here at Soluble as we keep you informed, to let you know what's going on constantly. But please know that going forward, since the time of Trumpism to now, going forward from here on out, there can be no more excuses. There can be no more complaining, because the vote changes everything, as we've seen. As we've seen, the vote changes everything. And there's nothing that angry, racist Caucasians can do to stop it, because that's the system we live in. And what they've been counting on up to this point is you not participating in it, your turnout being low, or you not showing up at all. They've counted on that. They've counted on it. And so, you know, that's kind of where things are at now, with the Republicans being confused, hung up, because they're so used to something like a midterm red wave. Because you know what happened the last time we had a Democrat in office. And I pointed this out to you. We had Obama in. He came in 2008. When the midterms came around in 2010, in his own words, he got a shellacking. And he did. So there was nothing there for him to work with as far as a majority in the House or the Senate. And then we stand around mumbling and grumbling and complaining that he's not doing nothing for our neighborhoods. Well, if you don't go out and support him in the midterms, then he can't get nothing done, because the Republicans don't have anything for you. They don't have nothing for you. Very little. A trickle down. A trickle that always leaves you thirsty, no matter what. It always leaves you thirsty. So, you know, as I said, the midterms matter. And we hope to keep you informed here, keep you motivated, keep you on the edge of your seat. But know that Negro voters in America who vote Democrat, and I'm speaking to the men first. I'm speaking to the men first, because this is the weak link. So to all Negro males in America who vote Democrat or who are on the fence, you know, take a look at both parties. But to those of you who are eligible to vote and who do in fact vote Democratic, the time is now. The time is now. And this is where, you know, your true power lies. So if you don't use it, then you can't complain. Going forward, you know, we're going to establish here at Soluble that every Negro male in America who complains and doesn't vote, that's a coward. That's a coward. And they're looking to make excuses. They're looking to have an excuse or a reason, because they really don't want to accept responsibility. they're really not grown man enough to take the bull by the horns and accept responsibility and take on the responsibility of being responsible for themselves, for their community, for their children, for their wives. And it's sad to say, but from slavery to now, and we know it's been a hard road. There have been threats, there have been acts of violence. We know it's been hard for Negro males in America, but we have to step up against all odds. We must, lest we perish. So we understand the fear. We understand the reason for the fear. But, in reality, it really is just like Franklin Delano Roosevelt said. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Excuse me. So, we're going to check all eligible Negroes in America, male and female, especially males, to vote. And if you choose not to, or for whatever reason you're not voting, then there's no complaining. Well, they're doing this and they're doing that. If they're doing it, it's because you're not voting them out. It's just that simple. It really is just that simple. So we're going to close there on that particular subject tonight when it comes to a low 90% turn support for Democrats in America. A low 90% among African American voters. We've gave you the reason that you should vote and continue to always vote in each and every election cycle. And we've let you know how we feel, if you don't vote. And we're going to have to call you out now because it's do or die. It's now or never. We figured it out, and that's one of the, rare good things that we can say about the coming of Donald J. Trump. He should have helped us all to figure it out. That we have to get out here and rock the vote. Or we know what could be possible in racist Republicans wanting to turn back the clock, turn back the hands of time. So that's one good thing the former president did. It should have been like a hit, a soft, a hit on the head, a hit on the head just hard enough to wake you up, to awaken you to what's going on around you. But rest assured that this is where your power lies. And so, with that being said, we're going to close it out there, and no more excuses. No more excuses. If you're not participating in the process, then you're going to feel excluded. You're going to feel left behind or cast by the wayside. But when you begin to feel like that, then don't complain. Just register up for the next time around. If you miss this election cycle and it starts to dawn on you, you have that light bulb moment, one day after the election, 1 hour after the polls close, and it's too late now. So you have to wait for the next time around. Well, when the next time around comes, do it. Participate. And not just on that next time around, but every time. Every time. We have to participate in the process. Just like we participate in all other things in America. Things that are not a matter of life and death. We participate wholeheartedly in things that have nothing to do with our daily well-being, our daily lives. And we participate in them wholeheartedly here in America. It's part of the Americana. But so is voting. And, when you don't participate, the realization that we've come to recognize here at Soluble is that this is what has caused Negroes in America to be taken for granted, left by the wayside, because you're not rocking the vote often enough and in large enough numbers. So in bringing the broadcast to you on a regular basis, on a regular weekly basis, we hope to change all that. And so, we look forward to the upcoming conversation that we know we'll be having with our listeners. those that are staunchly Democrat, those who are on the fence, and those coming from the other side, from the Republican side. We look forward to it. Now we're going to touch bases now briefly, moving on to some of pretty much what's going on today in politics. So we're on, here we are, day 2. 6 ballots. And we haven't selected a speaker yet. And this is stemming from a party that has a majority, that has had all of last year, before the midterm, during the campaign season, to come up with a game plan for after the red wave. And now looking at it now, we have to thank God that we didn't have a red wave. With the way they're coming out of the gate now, can't get their act together. Can't do the simple thing, like choosing a House Speaker. Can you imagine what would have happened if we had a red wave? You talk about the confusion and chaos now. But that's the Republican Party. All last year, all on the campaign trail. They demagogue Joe Biden, and they talked about the red wave. It's coming. I feel it. I see it on the horizon. I felt the drumbeat of the voters. I felt the pulse of the American voters. The American conservatives are energized, and a red wave is coming. And, strongly believing that, you would think that they would say, okay, we need to huddle up now, and we need to come up with a game plan so that we can come out of the gate hard for the American people, bringing bills to the floor, trying to get legislation passed to make the lives of everyday Americans better. You would think that. So, this level of dysfunction is just, it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing. The Democrats are at the dance, but they have no partner. And we all know that it takes 2 to tango. What are they doing? Why can't they get it together? Some are cheering for subpoenas, investigations. Some are saying, no, the American people don't want that. We need to get down to the business of making things better for the American people. They can't make up their mind. And these are still the after effects of Trumpism. We're still seeing the lingering, if you will, effects of Trumpism, plain and simple. Now, there was a time where the American people could stomach a Ronald Reagan Republican. Democrats could work across the aisle and try to find some level of compromise with a Reagan Republican. And then, you have the former president comes along and he claims to be a Reagan Republican. He claims to be a Reaganite. He comes out and champions the fact that he's a Ronald Reagan Republican. Not long after that, he goes and violates the main Reagan commandment. He violates the main Reagan commandment. Thou shalt not speak ill of another Republican. This is what the former president did. And so here we are. This is a direct result. Now, we're not going to, condemn everything that he said about the Bushes, the former Bush presidencies, both of them, HW and W. He spoke the truth, but it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so, when he violated that Reagan commandment there, that thou shalt not speak ill of another Republican, then, it had a cascading effect, a domino effect, if you will, till here we are now. Here we are now, waiting on the Republicans to choose the next Speaker of the House so that, we can roll up our sleeves and get down to the business of governing, get down to the business of, you know, bringing forth bills, legislation, and what have you to make lives better for everyday Americans. That's what we sent them up there for. So that's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I could go further. I wish I could sit here and discuss with you, bills that they brought forward thus far. What is the problem? I think that former Speaker Pelosi, you know, equated getting all the House members in order and getting everybody in line was like herding cats. And when we think about the idea of doing something like that, we know it's not easy. We know it's not easy to herd cats. They're not cattle. So, nevertheless, the former Speaker, Speaker Pelosi, she got it together. She got her house in order. And from there, she was able to go out into the American public and begin to get the people's house in order by first getting her own party in order. This should be, something that's simple, but yet it's seems to become more and more difficult every day. And as I said, this is a direct result of the former president violating the Ronald Reagan commandment. You can't have it both ways. And so, it remains to be seen. To the Republican voters, what? We look forward to you coming on. We look forward to you coming on. To the 6% that we lost between 2020 and 2022. To that 6% of Democratic voters of African American descent, what are you getting here? What are you getting? Yesterday it was Jim Jordan. The idea of Steve Scalise was floated. Andy Biggs was put up for a floor vote for Speaker of the House. Lo and behold, today you have Byron Donalds. Can you imagine that? Why the show? We're talking about, people's lives here. We have a lot of serious issues that we're facing as Americans every day. Is it something that we can figure out? We have to. We always have as a country. But this is not the time, nor is it ever the time. I think the president said today he used the word embarrassing to describe it. I think that's a very fitting adjective to describe what's going on right now in the people's house by our party that has all kind of accusations, float all kind of falsehoods. With the destruction of America here, America's going down there. America's changing. We want our country back. Now you're in a position to govern. You have a majority and don't know how to use it. This, as American citizens, Democrats in particular, we have to rally now and we have to stay united in our quest. And that main quest is to make the lives of everyday American people better. Americans of all stripes, of all races, immigrants, natives in the country. This is the land of the free. That has told the immigrant, give me your tired and huddled masses. But with this new majority, we don't see that attitude. We don't see that go get 'em spirit that, you know, we, the American people, expect out of our political leaders. Now, things were fine before the midterm. You know, the Democrats were putting out bills, albeit, you know, the Republicans saying that they were adding to the deficit. There wasn't money to pay for them. Now they're in the majority in the House. And you know, you would think that since they can show us in so many ways and to describe to us in so many terms as to how the Democrats are getting it all wrong, add to the deficit, you know, taxing and spending. So now it's your turn. You have a majority. You have the backing of the American people. You've been voted in with an agenda. Where is that agenda? Where is that agenda to make American lives better? And you know, we have to understand that, you know, looking at the way things are starting out here, this is going to be, you know, a very hectic 2 years. If it's starting out the gate unorganized, disorganized, what can we expect a year from now? When, as I've said before, we've had a year before the midterms, and the Republicans, you know, were expecting a red wave. So now like I said, we should feel grateful that we didn't have that wave, because although they were championing the red wave, they were expecting it. They were advocating on behalf of the red wave. Had it come, we would be in more trouble than we are now, because for all this time they've been talking about the red wave that's coming. Now we see that now that the wave has come, albeit a small wave, now that it's come and gone, there's no governance, there's no plan. There's no plan. So, you know, right now the rubber hasn't met the road. And the only conclusion we can draw is that it's all talk. It's all talk. You know, scare tactics, as we stated before, put out to frighten you, the American voter. But now the ball's in their court. The ball's in their court. And here we are, political gamesmanship, political theater. To what end? So it's been 6 ballots, still no Speaker of the House. The Republicans have the majority. Who and or what do they want? This is what should be somewhat alarming to the American people, because we have this vote. We've had 6 ballots where we didn't reach a majority to seat a speaker. So at this point in time, maybe even after even the first ballot, why can't the Republicans get together on behalf of the American people? The Democrats are waiting. We're waiting to work across the aisles with the Republican majority. Why can't they get it together? Here we are, well after the midterms. And now is not the time to be negotiating, trying to strike deals. Now it's time to govern. And this is how far behind the 8 ball that the Republican Party is. Could you imagine if this was Joe Biden? Then inflation really would be out of control. Prices at the pump would skyrocket. These foreign countries would be holding us hostage because we don't have a plan, because we're behind the 8 ball, because we're divided and they feel like they can conquer us. That's not the Democratic Party. They have a solid plan, ready to bring bills to the floor. But we need a partner. We need a partner. And here's the Republican Party. that has went before the American people, made the case as to why it's best to have a Republican majority in Congress. And the voters gave them half of what they wanted. They gave them half of what they wanted. As a cautionary tale, as a way of saying, well, I don't think that, I'm not sure if we've totally moved past Trumpism. I don't know yet. It remains to be seen if the Republican Party has its act together and they're actually ready to lead and govern and take us down a path of strong economic growth, safe within our borders. We don't know what we're going to get yet. But here we have the Republican Party. Well after the midterms, going on 2 months later, and nothing as to say, here's our plan to make things better, and this is why they will make them better. They're not even beginning to make the case. The clock is ticking. And the American people are hurting. We need comprehensive immigration reform. A way to lower prices and keep them low at the pump. Prescription drugs. People are hurting tonight, trying to get their meds, trying to hang on to their Social Security. Some don't know how they're going to rebuild or if the insurance company is going to come clean based on some tragic weather event that has happened that has taken their house, taken their well-being away. And all they have is the clothes on their back. Hurricane Ian. It's raining like the Dickens now in California. We had the big blizzard here just a couple of weeks ago on the East Coast. People are hurting and they're looking for answers. Now, if you listen to Republicans, the Democrats are going to destroy this country. And it's because of the Democrats that this country is going to hell in a handbasket. Now you see them in the majority with no answers. And you would think just a little bit here that here's a party that feels so strongly that the opposition party is destroying the country. On one hand, you feel as though the Democratic Party is destroying America. So there's another hand there. And on that hand, you have to have the solution. That's what we here at Soluble do. That's what we're here for. That's what we're attempting to bring to you, a solution. And right now, much to my chagrin, it seems as if we're stuck here until the Republican Party, comes forward and lets the American people know who they want and what they want. Even though this should have already been decided last year. Because as I said, now is the time to start governing. So, it's a buyer beware. It's a buyer beware. We, the American people, the American voters, have as buyers, we've bought the Republican Party back into power in the House. But now it's beware. Because you don't know what you're going to get. They're having trouble coming together. And getting down to the nitty-gritty, the vast majority of Republicans know that America has no stomach for baseless investigations, for investigations that are constantly a bridge to nowhere. And that's part of the reason why we have this infighting in the House. If they're so sure, if the Republicans and the Republican Party is so sure that Hunter Biden is compromised, and he's compromising his father's presidency, and it's a clear and present danger to our institutions, to the country, then they would bring it. They would bring it to, they would make the case to the American people, as the January 6th committee did. You didn't see the January 6th committee dragging their feet, based on speculations. They came with facts. They did their research. They did their investigations. And they followed the trail wherever it may have led in order to get to what? The truth on behalf of the American people. Could this be what part of the confusion is? Could this be some of what they want as to why they won't appoint my minority leader McCarthy as a speaker? We don't know. It remains to be seen. What we do know is that here we have a party that's great, that's exceptional at pointing the finger at the other party to say, they're bad for America. They're going to destroy America. Their policies are what's causing America to lose prestige around the world. And they have nothing to counter with. And they have nothing to counter with to say our party has this. They're doing that. They being the Democrats, or in Republican circles, the liberals. The liberals are doing this. The bleeding liberals, the tax and spend liberals. Well, what is the alternative? What is the alternative? What is it? What is the Republican alternative here? While the American people are hurting, they've went out and voted. They did their due diligence. They've went out and voted, and here it is. This is on Republican voters. You should be angry. You should be pissed off right now. You should be concerned because the Republicans can't do something real simple: say who and or what they want in order to get the gavel into someone's hands, because we can't begin to do anything until we have a speaker in the House. So here we are on day 2, and it's a delay of gain. We're not gaining anything here. This is a delay on day 2. Yesterday we should have had a speaker. Today we should have had a speaker. But what do we got? Nothing. Nothing. Nothing but the Republicans joking around and appointing Byron Donalds to be the next Speaker of the House. And we, the American people, all know that he doesn't have a snowball's chance. He doesn't have a snowball's chance. And while they're doing this political gamesmanship, you, the American people, are suffering. And so, for this reason, this one of many reasons, we're going to open up the invite button. We're going to open up a window of invitation. And we're looking for Republican voters to come on and make the case, for your party as to what's going on and why. And you're going to be challenged, and rightfully so, just like the Democrats are challenged. And, we feel good about the fact that we live in a system of checks and balances, so that, excuse me, we know that the truth will eventually come out. It'll eventually come out. It always does. If there's something that Hunter Biden's doing, it's going to come out. And it's not going to be because Republicans are doggedly going after it. But there's nothing there. It's just a reach. It's just a way to tear Joe Biden down before 2024. And, what does that tell you about the party? That they come out in a majority, and one of their main interests is in turning the sitting president down. Can't they govern a little while? Can't they legislate just for a little while on behalf of the American people? And then as it gets close to 2024, then maybe go into campaign mode. But no. Think about that. Think about this delay of game that we're having, because we as Americans, we're all losing. As the current president said, it's embarrassing. The greatest country in the world, and we can't get our act together here at home. We can't even form a consensus to select the Speaker of the House and get about doing the people's business. It's embarrassing. What hypocrisy. And so, once again, we see the Republican circus. But if you let them tell it, and if you're not paying attention, if you're not intelligent enough, they're the best thing for America. They're the ones who are going to save America. One thing that we here at Soluble, and we're getting ready to close now, one thing that we're going to make note of before we close. Constantly on the campaign trail, whether it be, before the election, after the election, on the House floor, you like to hear the Republicans use the term fight. Fight. We're going to fight for you. We're going to fight and win. That's not where we want our politicians at. Or that shouldn't be where we want our politicians at. We see the result of it now. They're infighting. Now, last year this time, they were going to blow up the midterms. Last year this time they were expecting a red wave, and they were going to fight for you, and they was going to do all these things to make your life better. And now the election is coming on, the midterms are coming on, and all we see is not fighting on behalf of the American people, but we see infighting. So we here at Soluble, we're going to suggest that instead of going to Washington to fight, how about going to Washington to debate, negotiate? Heated debate is good. Heated discussion is good. So instead of going to fight, because fighting gets us nowhere, how about, the Republican Party, as I said, taking that one term away that's constantly in their vocabulary? Oh, we're going to fight for you. We're going to fight to the end. We'll always fight. We see it now. We should see the true meaning of that. This infighting that's going on now. And whether the Republicans are infighting or whether they're attempting to come to Washington to fight, it's nothing to fight. We're all Americans. So they should be coming with fiery passion to negotiate, to debate the issues, and get things done on behalf of the American people. Because just like the infighting that's going on now is getting us nowhere as a country, as a legislative body, just like this infighting is getting us nowhere here, going to Washington to fight is going to get you nowhere in the future. What's going to move the needle and move America closer to being that shiny city on the hill is intelligent, sound debate and working across the aisle like it's always been, as it's always been. So, in closing, we don't want the American people to be fooled by Republicans and the Republican Party that America is all doom and gloom. And it's only going to get worse under Democratic leadership. The country has moved forward. It may not be at a faster pace. It may not be at a steadier pace, but we move forward as Democrats governing this country, as opposed to Republicans, where we always have these hiccups, where we get on this roller coaster ride. In the midterms, they had us, before the midterm, during the campaign, they had us all up. Oh, we're going to win. We're going to red wave it. We're going to go to DC and we're going to change. So we're all up. Now this roller coaster has taken us down for a low dip. And who knows how long we'll be here until we choose a Speaker of the House. Something that should be simple. Something that should be simplistic. And then, roll up your sleeves and get to work doing the business of the people. That could be somewhat difficult. And here we are on day 2 of a Republican majority, and we don't have a Speaker of the House. So if we don't have a speaker, then we can't get to work doing the business of the American people. And we will continue to discuss, debate, try to bring you informative information so as not to go backwards, but to take America forward with voter turnout, good legislative bills coming to the floor that's going to benefit us all as Americans. We all share a common interest in not adding to the deficit, protecting the common defense, promoting the general welfare. We all have a stake in it. And as I said, the Democrats are ready. They're ready, willing, and able to go to work. But we have no partner. Where it takes 2 to tango, we have no partner. So it remains to be seen. But you can rest assured that we here at Soluble, we will be watching. We will be taking notes to keep you informed, to keep you from ever being deceived again. We know what making America great again looks like now. Whereas we're already a great country. There's no again. America was made great during the time of the Industrial Revolution. So we're already great. And so we can only get greater. So don't be deceived by smooth words, slick slogans that at the end of the day carry no weight. The rubber never meets the road with these slogans. But, we're not going to condemn anybody for giving it a try once. But, we see the end result there. So that's going to conclude this broadcast, day 2 of the Republican majority, and we have a delay of gain. We haven't gained anything. We haven't begun to get down to the nitty gritty of discussing the business of the people. So it's a delay of gain. It's a delay of your wealth, a delay of your well-being, a delay of your peace of mind, a delay of moving America forward as a country. Delay, delay, delay. And that's not what we were expecting. That's not what we were promised. And so you have to think long and hard about it. If the Republicans are going to break a promise here, what else are they going to break? If they can't get their own house in order as a party, how are they going to run the people's house? And that's the reason why we don't have anything getting done at this moment. That's why there's a delay of gain, because they don't have it together. And you have to see this now and call it out, challenge it. But the most effective thing you can do for this country going forward is continue to rock the vote for the Democratic Party. That's all we have here tonight at Soluble. We thank you for joining us, coming out. We look forward, as I said, to keeping you informed so as to never go back. We're always looking forward. We've rocked the vote. We've got the desired result. There are no more excuses. We need all registered Democratic voters, especially voters of color, to be prepared to start getting ready now for the next election cycle, because we have to keep this majority in order to be in control, in order to have the true power. We're going to have to vote it in. We're going to have to vote in the power that we desire to end all the things that in America we don't desire. The path of least resistance is through the political system. Thank you. We're going to revisit an issue from last year on our first issue day for the year 2023, and that's going to be crimes against children in America. We're looking for a solution there. We're always trying to solve. That's our main goal. That's our reason for being. That's our reason for sitting down with you on a nightly basis, because we're looking for a solution. So we look forward to you joining us this Friday, January the 6th, and where we will be discussing the soluble issue of crimes against children in America and what should be done, what could be done, what should be done to end this constant attack on our children here in America. This is Soluble signing off. We thank you for coming out and us tonight, and we look forward to continuing this discussion going forward in the near future. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is Soluble signing off, saying good night and God bless. Thank you.